A new franchise record is set, as are the Western Conference standings. We'll break down the Suns' path through the West on today's episode of Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed reporter covering this Suns team for the past 5 seasons and a contributor at Suns.com as well as Dime Magazine. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen today and every day, for finding us on YouTube, where the channel is growing and where we are hoping to get to 1,500 subscribers before Game 1 of the playoffs. So we have exactly a week from when I'm recording this to get that goal met. So hit subscribe if you have not already. If you're just finding the channel for the first time, tell all of your friends, family, and every Suns fan in your life to do the same. And if you are an audio-only type of person, well, thank you for finding us there as well. There's a subscribe button or a follow button on your platform too. So support the show that way, and we will continue to go. As I said, 64 wins is the new franchise record for a Suns season. 64-18. They have capped off this performance. So we will talk about takeaways from Game 82 all the way at the end. We'll talk about the playoff standings being finalized and what the Suns' path looks like and my thoughts on it. And then to start with right now, let's actually just put this Suns season into a little bit of perspective one more time, because there are just not a lot of teams in the grand scheme of the NBA, just even recent history, who have won 64 games. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly. The year prior was as well. But in 2018-19, the best team in the NBA was the Milwaukee Bucks. They only won 60 games. The year before that, you had Chris Paul setting his previous franchise win record with his last record-breaking team in Houston, going 65-17. Prior year, you had the Warriors 67, then the Warriors 73. Before that, let's see, the best team in the NBA won 67 games again. If it's not named Steph Curry, you are not getting that high, is basically the bottom line here. I'm scraping, and I'm not finding anybody. The last time it was LeBron James on those Miami Heat. Like, you really have to go back a really, really far way. I think the first Celtics team, the first Celtics team was 66-16 when KG and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen joined Paul Pierce, and that's probably the best comparison that we can find, is a team that came together, just clicked, just played better than the sum of its parts, and blazed through the entire league. And similarly, that year, the Celtics had a really, really big lead on the next best team in their conference, which in that case was the Detroit Pistons. The last embers after Ben Wallace was already gone and Antonio McDyess had replaced him in the starting lineup, but it was Billups, Hamilton, Rasheed, McDyess, and Tayshaun Prince. And they were 59 wins. The Celtics were 7 games ahead of that. So it's rare to be this good, is basically the bottom line. And I think all of you listening know that. But 64 wins, I mean, because, I don't want it to be that this team didn't get to that vaunted 65, 66, 67 threshold and that it somehow was a disappointment that they dropped a couple of games late in the year. That should not be the way that we think about this season at all. And I hope nobody is. I don't know if any of you would, but I hope that that's not the way that this gets painted, because that's an arbitrary number. I mean, I guess 65 is a little bit of a round number. It's a 5, but 66 is random. That's no different. Really, if you're winning 60 plus games in the NBA, you are a special team. And if you get past 62, seems to really be where it's just out of this world, and the Suns qualify. So that's very, very special. The other part of this that I just want to kind of reaffirm one more time here too, because these Suns, they have the best net rating in the NBA in addition to having the best record. So they're outscoring teams per 100 possessions by the biggest margin in the league. They had the third most efficient offense in the NBA, second most efficient defense. The rule of thumb in the NBA tends to be, you'll hear national people talk about this all the time, is if you're in the top 10 in both of those categories, you should feel pretty good about yourself. The Suns were top 3 in both of those categories. They are currently plus 260 to win the NBA title. No other team is better than plus 550. So the Suns have double the odds of any other team, and that second team is the Bucks, who just beat them. So, very, very special team, and we will see what happens in the playoffs. I think we all can agree that it is effectively a championship or bust type of mentality from the guys on this team. Getting so close last year, there's really nothing else. I mean, unless you're willing to split the difference and say that the goal is to get to a game 7 of the finals instead of a game 6, then I don't think there's really any other way to look at it other than a title is what needs to happen. We don't know that yet. What we do know is, as things currently stand, there's not been a team in the NBA, in the Suns, that has won the NBA championship. So to me, this is the best Suns team in the history of the franchise. And I just want to give you my rankings just because I had fun making them, and I think it puts into perspective how special this group is. So from 5 to 1, number 5 is the 2004-2005 Phoenix Suns, who held that 62-win previous record. They made the conference finals. They were a little bit better than the next year, which was the year that the book got written about and everything else. But of course, that season, Stoudemire was hurt. You didn't have Quentin Richardson or Joe Johnson. So that first Nash season is the first real big Nash season is the one that I always think about. D'Antoni coming in and Stoudemire being healthy. Number 4 is last year's Phoenix Suns. Very much a late push to get there, and the record stuff is impossible to compare really because the shortened season and everything else. But of course, making the finals puts them in rarefied air. Third is the 2006-2007 Phoenix Suns. That previously, to me, was the best regular season in franchise history. I think that was the best roster in franchise history, in my opinion. But for whatever reason, well, we know the reason. We don't need to rehash it. They were 61-21, so just missed tying that franchise mark. And of course, in the second round, the referees decided to sway things a little bit. Needless to say, the Suns lose in that second round. But that roster, you were getting peak Barbosa. You still had Bell. You still had Diaw. You still had Marion and Stoudemire. Of course, Steve Nash is obviously playing a major role. You were getting the best out of the most people at that point. And, GM James Jones involved as well. Kurt Thomas, when they tried to go a little big. This was right before the Shaq trade. You all know. That, to me, that used to be the best regular season. This regular season has surpassed it. Number 2 is the 1992-93 Phoenix Suns. Obviously, a tremendous regular season as well. I don't know if the roster quite stacks up, but you had MVP Charles Barkley. You had a supporting cast, even though Kevin Johnson was in and out of the lineup, with Marley, probably one of his best seasons. You had Ainge at the right time. You had, everything. We all know how great that team was, and they made the finals, so they get the bump over the 06-07. And then number 1, the 2021-22 Phoenix Suns. I think, assuming a deep run, whether they win the title or not, this team clinches it. They were dominant. They were the most confident, swaggerful, just incredible to watch, entertaining, brilliant, smart, versatile, deep, like anything that you would want out of a basketball team, this one had. And of course, it will not feel satisfying unless there's a ring at the end of it. But nevertheless, we are celebrating the regular season today, and this was the best one that I think this franchise has ever experienced. Some surprises in the Western Conference. We thought the Warriors might be the second round opponent. They're actually up to 3. The playoff matchups, aside from the Suns, are going to be really exciting. So we'll break all of that down. First, though, guys, today's show brought to you by Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever, and my favorite protein bar. Look, I've been telling you guys how Built Bar can be the solution to your New Year's resolution qualms, and I still stand by that. It is an easy way to eat healthy, is an easy way to hold yourself over between meals to make sure you're powering up or rejuvenating during workouts the right way, because it's very low in sugar, very high in protein, and best of all, delicious. Whether you're getting the classic Built Bar like strawberry flavored or double chocolate or mint brownie, or Built Puffs, which are the same, low sugar, high protein, low calorie, but incredible flavors. Cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, or my personal favorite, lemon cheesecake. And so you're getting the point. Delicious, healthy, nutritious, filled with protein to get you ready for whatever you need throughout your day. What else could you want? Of course it's going to be the solution, because if you're hungry, if you don't know what to eat, if you're looking in the snack counter, if you're looking in the snack pantry, whatever, and you're thinking, yeah, those candy bars look pretty good, or some chips would really hit the spot, put a Built Bar in your mouth and just move on. You will forget about all of your worries, and you will feel better, and you will feel full, and you will feel powered and fueled. Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make it delicious first, then they figure out how to make it healthy, and they pull it off every single time. So go to Built.com, guys. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Just going to go ahead and read you the standings if you missed them before listening today. So Suns, of course, in the 1 spot. Grizzlies, of course, in the 2 spot. And that is where things get interesting. So the Warriors were lingering around the 4-5 matchup for a while. They are able to get things together. Jordan Poole scores 20 plus in like 8-9 straight games and helps them stay afloat. They will be the 3 seed, which means the Suns avoid them until the conference finals. We'll talk about the Suns pathway in a second. Mavs 4, Jazz 5. Mavs getting to 4 is really impressive, by the way. They have, really put together a strong regular season. Luka's playing great the past few months. Might get some MVP votes. We'll see. Utah Jazz in the 5th spot. They move up. They had been at 6 for the past few weeks. They move up. They had the tiebreaker over Denver, so they get to go to 5 while Denver slides down to 6. And then 7, 8, 9, 10 is exactly what it's been for a while. Wolves, Clippers, Pelicans, Spurs. So the Suns matchup will be decided. Tuesday night is the 7-8 game. Thursday night is the 9-10, or Wednesday night is the 9-10 game. And then Friday night will be when we all find out who the Suns play. And then like 48 hours or less after that is when game 1 of the 1-8 matchup that the Suns will actually be hosting will start. So it's going to be a crazy week. It's going to be a week full of bonus episodes on this show, because I don't have time to preview the series, because I don't do episodes on the weekend normally. So our regularly scheduled programming will be a little bit disrupted. I will give you all that content that you need, though. That will all be decided at a later date. But what we do know now is that these West playoffs are going to be incredible. You have if it is Grizzlies Wolves, which I still feel like the Clippers will win. I may or may not have placed a bet on that because I feel that confident about it. I think the Clippers are just a better team with Paul George than the Timberwolves are, but Grizz Wolves would be incredible. Just 2 young teams. It would be high scoring. It would be intense. It would be crazy. It would probably be a lot of mistakes, if we're being honest. It's Ja versus Anthony Edwards. A lot of fun. Suns Clippers would be a rematch if that happens. But the other ones are the other 2 series are the ones that I'm really, really excited about, that they ended up the way they did. Because if it had been Warriors Jazz in that 4-5, we've seen that series so many times. The Warriors have knocked the Jazz out of the playoffs like 2 or 3 times during this Warriors dynasty, and it's always so depressing. The Jazz just do not have the two-way talent, and it's never been close. So I was not rooting for that at all. What we got instead is awesome, because Warriors Nuggets is about as big of a clash of rosters as you could possibly get. The big thing for the Warriors is they do not have depth at center. And even their starting center, who they relied on quite a bit this year in Kevon Looney, is not very big. He's like 6'9" and is not an incredible athlete, can't really handle a lot of minutes because of his history of injuries. And now they are going to have to guard Nikola Jokic. So can Looney hold up? Can Draymond Green really, really play big? And can the Warriors scheme up a way to stop Jokic if those two guys aren't wanting or able to do it one-on-one for 48 minutes? That is going to be a really, really exciting thing. You will see if Murray and Porter Jr. play. It seems like Murray may play. Who knows? But it's going to be a blast. And I think it'll be a real test for the Warriors, much more than the Jazz would have been. Now, I also think the Mavs will beat the Jazz, but that matchup is really exciting as well because those two teams, again, clash of style. The Mavs have basically downsized, traded Kristaps Porzingis, no real, full-time big man. They play Dwight Powell. He's been pretty good, but they have Maxi Kleber as an option. They have, Dorian Finney-Smith can be, a nominal center sometimes. They've closed games with, those really wing-heavy lineups with Luka just dishing out to shooters and then switching on defense a lot. And, of course, the Jazz don't do any of that. They don't switch much at all on defense. They play big because Rudy Gobert is always going to be on the floor. And we've seen a lot of moments in those two games late where Luka, makes Rudy come out and guard on the perimeter and then just cooks him or tries to. And that clash is going to be really fun. I mean, I think in both of those series, despite some weirdness with the matchups, I think, the higher seeds, for good reason, should be favored in just about every one of these series. I do think if the Clippers do win that first game and play the Grizzlies, that would be one where, we'll get some upset watch stuff. John Morant did come back this weekend and pick up right where he left off. So, not going to put the cart in front of the horse, but it should be great, great basketball is the point. So we talked about the Suns waiting on the seed, and I really do think it's quite a bit up in the air. I think, the Wolves and Clippers are decidedly better than the Pelicans and Spurs. I don't think we'll get an upset where one of the 9 or the 10 bursts in. I don't think that will happen. But I do think the Clippers could beat the Wolves, like I said. Aside from that, though, we're now looking at a situation because, again, just for the sake of repeating it, because I know it is a little bit counterintuitive and it's not always fair necessarily. The NBA does not reseed. So the matchups are locked in. It doesn't matter if a lower seed wins. The Suns would not play that team unless it was the 4-5 matchup. They will play the winner of Mavs Jazz, period. And so assuming that's the Mavericks, which I think we could be headed toward a Utah implosion, and I think Dallas has proven itself to just be the better team. That's my expectation of what will happen. That is going to be such a exciting and exhausting and strategically interesting series if it's Suns Mavs. I mean, you obviously have the Luka DA stuff from the 2018 draft. You have the fact that Mikal has really, really had a lot of success against Luka, really dating back to the first season. I mean, all of those players' rookie years, Mikal has had his number. DA has always dominated the Mavs because of their lack of size. So those games have always been close. They've always been exciting. They add a little bit with that, juice between the Suns and the Mavs with the Luka stuff. And I just think it would be a really fun series. I mean, I think it would be high scoring. I think Luka is going to take his game to a really high level in these playoffs with how well he's been playing lately. He's always stepped up in the playoffs. The Suns can obviously turn it on offensively. Like that would be, I think it really, even though it would be the second round, would have the potential to be a pretty classic battle of a series, like, Booker going for 40, Luka going for 40 on, in play every single night. And then, of course, as I said, the Warriors moving up to 3 brings us right back to where we thought we would be when we thought that the Warriors would be in the number 2 hole, which is that they are not in sight until the conference finals. And with that Nuggets matchup and the Grizzlies matchup and everything else, the Warriors are not a lock to even get to that point. But assuming they do, those are, to me, at full strength. Those are still the 2 best teams. We are seeing reports that Steph may not play in game 1. I still don't think that matters. They're probably going to be favored in both of their series, and that core should earn the benefit of that doubt. So, we're looking at potentially Clippers, Mavs, Warriors. I mean, it's going to be much harder than it was last year, I think, and a lot of unique and different types of matchups. That's part of why I'm rooting for it to not be the Clippers. I'd like for it to be the Wolves or something, That way we would just get 3 brand new challenges, 3 brand new matchups. The Clippers thing was so exhausting last year. I still think I would pick the Suns in that series, but I've been saying for weeks now that would be a bad one. So let's hope Wolves, Mavs, Warriors would be a blast. Would be a lot of different types of teams. Would be a lot of different storylines. I'm so excited. I don't want to have to wait a week, to be completely honest with you. But it's nice to avoid the play-in game, of course. All right, let's go rapid fire through takeaways from the Suns' loss to the Kings. I didn't want to spend the whole show on that game by any means because it did not feature any of the Suns starters, but there was some things, and so we'll talk about. I have 4 main takeaways here, and we'll rapid fire through them to close out the show. First, though, guys, today's show brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for betting stats and sports info throughout the year. Find all the latest sports developments, league analysis, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for sports wagering info from live betting to playoffs, esports, Vegas casino games, and more. I'm looking here. The play-in game odds are already up. Again, I told you the money line for the Clippers on Tuesday night is plus 120. That feels pretty good. It's fairly close to even, but I just feel like if you look at the line, the line is only Minnesota by 2.5, and they're home. So that should show you how close it is. Little something on the Clippers feels pretty good. The Pelicans, I think, are going to win. I think the Hawks are going to win. I think the Nets are for sure going to win. But Clippers, have a little fun with that, and root for the Suns to not have to deal with the Clippers. Add to the pleasure of winning that bet by having the Suns favored as well. Head to the website today, guys, betonline.net, or use your mobile device to learn more about the latest trends and action across the sports landscape. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's quickly hit some 4 takeaways from the Suns' 116-109 loss to the Sacramento Kings here on Sunday night, right before I hit the record button. First is Wainwright. He signed a full-on NBA deal, just like we all expected after the waiver of Frank Kaminsky. So Wainwright will be eligible for the playoffs. Very well-deserved. Very a big success story. I don't know what he'll become, but I talked about this when I saw the news about Frank Kaminsky, which is Ish doesn't look as, I guess, rudimentary. He doesn't look, you don't see the effort and the struggle as much to shoot, to move around the court, to pass, to learn the offense, to get the offense, things like that. It has evaporated. And so that to me is a signal that he picks things up quickly, that he's a hard worker. And those are the guys you want to bet on. So I don't know if he'll play in the playoffs much, but betting on him to continue to improve and be here long-term is a smart thing to do. The thing from this game, though, is he shot 8 threes. He made 3 of them. He is 8 of 17 from deep in 4 games in April this season. This April. He made so much of a stride shooting the ball. And I don't know, again, if that will continue, but he just looks so much smoother with it than he did. When he was bricking shots when he first got here. And understandably so. He's never really been a shooter. He is already 27, so there's a part of you that kind of wonders what that means. But he shot 6 of 13 from deep in January, and then again 8 of 17 in April. So very, very few attempts. It's hard to know where he goes from here, but something to look at for sure. Second takeaway, Elfrid Payton is back out of the rotation seemingly. Aaron Holiday getting the start, so he's out of the doghouse, it seems, and Campaign was also out tonight in addition to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. So Payne dealing with right knee soreness, which is definitely a storyline heading into the playoffs. And the fact that with that uncertainty around Payne and the rest for Paul and Booker, that Aaron Holiday got the start, played 33 minutes. He did not make any shots. He was 3 of 17, but that doesn't much matter. This game was not super meaningful. So rotation-wise, trust-wise, confidence-wise, Holiday seems to be back in good faith, or in Monty's confidence again. So good to see. He's going to be much more of a difference maker, I think, than Elfrid Payton would have been. So if it gets to the point where one of those guys is having to play, I just think you have to go with Holiday. He can shoot better. He can defend at a high level as well, bring energy, knows the system, play makes better. It doesn't make much sense why Payton would be the guy. All right, third takeaway. Iffe Lundberg didn't look lost, and that might sound like a backhanded compliment, but it's not. It's a legitimate thing that I feel like anybody who loves the NBA knows. You know when you see a guy who steps onto a court and you're like, I don't think this is going to work. We have all seen it, and he doesn't look that way. He can defend pretty well. His shot is already there. He looks like he has deep range, quick release, all the stuff that they brought him over for. And again, he like Ish Wainwright, he is 27. Those are the most James Jones two-way signings that you possibly could have dreamt up. Two 27-year-old guys who can do a little bit of everything and work really hard. That's the mold. But I think Lundberg is probably going to be here again next season, would be my guess, just with how late he got here. The way that he, like I was just explaining, very much fits what a Sun is in this day and age. He had 10, 5, and 5, so he can kind of fill up the box score. He's not just a shooter. I think he'll be around, and I think that excites me. I think I'm intrigued to see what else happens. Last but not least, this is a funny one, but I just think the Suns should do. We're looking out to see what the playoff matchups look like, but I think we can all agree that not having to play Justin Holiday or Harrison Barnes, although less so Barnes today, is probably the best outcome. Avoiding the Warriors in the second round is great. Hoping that the Clippers win that first play-in game and you can play Minnesota, it might be good too. But number one thing to count your lucky stars for if you're the Suns right now is no Justin Holiday. That guy, I do not have an explanation whatsoever for what it is that he's able to do to the Suns, but he plays like he's Ray Allen every single time that he steps on the floor against the Suns. So there is a little bit of an if you can't beat him, join him thing. And I sort of feel like I wish that Holiday was on this team, although I don't think he's vaccinated, so that could pose some problems. However, he is gone. He is rid from the postseason. He will not have to haunt the Suns' dreams. He will not have to go, what was he tonight? 5 of 8, 5 of 6 from 3 in any more games. He will not have to make prayer shots over and over. This is seemingly what he does. So goodbye, good riddance, Justin Holiday. We'll bring your brother along for a journey through the playoffs, and the other one just got a title. So sorry, but not sorry. Goodbye, Justin Holiday. Goodbye, 2021-22 Suns regular season. On to the playoffs. More to come this week, guys. I will recap that 7-8 game on Tuesday. I will have bonus episodes next weekend, and I will obviously as well have Aaron Holiday for his weekly visit as well. Until then, make Locked On NBA your second listen to get ready for the playoffs. I will talk to you guys tomorrow.